Hello and good day. I am here to give you probably the most goldies perspective on Overwatch. Why do I want to do this? Because, well, I watch a lot of Overwatch content. I watch all the group up podcasts, I watch all the Overwatch videos. I love Frito, SVB, Flats, Emong, Spilo, A10, the whole crew. So Overwatch is an ability-based 5v5 first-person shooter. It has a wide map diversity and hero pool. Each hero has a unique set of abilities that interact with the map and other characters in pretty vibrant ways. The goal of any given match in Overwatch is to take a space, move a payload, or fight for specific locations on the map at any given time. Uh, Now all of that is great, but the biggest issue that Overwatch I think actually does have, and always has had, is its community. The community itself has always been very opinionated and biased. It's pretty much whatever your favorite character is. If they are not the best, then Overwatch is a bad game. And if your least favorite character isn't the worst, then Overwatch is also a bad game. When it comes to the quote unquote pro players, I would say anybody who is a GM, or better, content creators especially. I think that they are 100% correct about a third of the time. A lot of issues that they have with the game revolve around balance, hero design, or map design, and a lot of that stuff to me is micro level stuff. And the majority of the things that affect the majority of players is the macro, the big stuff. Example of this is Tracer's bullets doing 5.5 damage versus 6 damage per bullet is something that the vast majority of players don't think about or care about. It's just they have a good Tracer on their team and that's the end of it. Unfortunately, if the pros at the highest level are bored, a new character, a new shiny thing is not gonna change that. Overwatch has followed the Holy Trinity just like RPGs follow the Holy Trinity. Overwatch has DPS, supports, and tanks. These are also warriors, mages, and knights or tanks. This translates into Overwatch as forming comps. And those comps translate into brawl, dive, or poke. This Holy Trinity is integral to the identity of Overwatch. It was born of the creators of Team 4, who apparently made WoW, and that is very apparent. When it comes to the metal rank players, they are just all people looking to have fun and obtain minor growth unless you're in bronze because you're just kind of a toxic, angry person who's mad at your team. And that's just truth. To keep them happy, all you really do need is a rotating pool of what is strong. Most of the metal players who are already invested in Overwatch have found their heroes, have their play styles, and just want to be pretty much good at that. When it comes to something like hero balancing for the metal rank players, I think they need simple characters as a rule fall off versus characters who have higher mechanical skill payoffs or higher risk play payoffs. Sombra is a good example of something being added that fits all of these areas, pretty much in adding her little Rubik's Cube, which is a skill shot. I would say Venture, being a Canadian, completely short range character that has to get in there with all of that risk, is another good example of that. I would say maybe her shield health regeneration mitigates that risk a little bit much sometimes, but hey, that's not me. Metal Ring players do not need more unique interactions. All of this is confusing, and confusing is gatekeeping to new players because you need to have a knowledge check to enter the game and to play with your friends. It limits old players from really wanting to play with their friends if they have to teach them at times. I'm more than happy to teach my friends if it comes down to it, but it's also not a very easy game to teach if they just want to actually pick up and play a game for a few hours after work. I would say roles are already being brought into line, and that's good. The DPS passive is definitely a prime example of this because now the DPS are the main characters who kill things. The other ones really can't, and that's because they are not DPS. When it comes to more unique interactions, we have, for example, we have anti-healing, we have fire, we have damage over times, we have silences, we have CCs, we have cleansing of all of that, we have damage buffs, and we have more. All of that is quite a lot when you're trying to add it to just a first person shooter where most people just like to look down what's in front of them and go brrr and don't even understand high ground. Now, probably the hottest take of all of this is when it comes to the metal ranks, you need to stop listening to supports. I say this as somebody who plays a lot of support. Last time I checked, and this was a while ago, I did still have over 150 hours as Mercy, around 300 hours as Brig, and multiple hundreds hours as other characters because I play this game a lot. They are proven to be the least flexible and adaptable players on any given team. There is stats to show that. And this is the main reason that they have issues. So when they're complaining because unfortunately a lot of them do not know how to play the game. And that is coming from somebody who generally duos with a Moira main, and no, she is not a DPS Moira, so I do understand the difference. Alrighty, now the game as a whole. I don't want to look too far back. I'll talk about Overwatch 1 in a different area. But I want to talk about mostly from Season 9 until now. Season 9 was the last time that they had really big changes. And I'll note a little about Season 9 as well from Overwatch 1 is that's the season that Brig launched. So Overwatch does have a history with Season 9. I'm going to talk about Overwatch 2 Season 9. Overwatch 2 Season 9 added the DPS passive. While it was initially too strong against tanks, they definitely brought it back into line, and I think it is sitting at such a good spot right now. The DPS passive was incredibly important because it buffed the DPS in a way that pretty much nerfed everyone else instead. Because it stopped things like the Moiras, the Ilaris, and the Briggs from dominating the lobbies just by being able to do damage and self-sustain and then sustain the team. The healing passive was another good thing, because even as a Reinhardt, I can hold up my shield long enough to have that kick in and help my supports who are trying to heal me actually heal me. Other than that, I think that's about all. Really, it's still a good game. It's still playing well. It's still doing well. As long as you have good players, we're still doing good. And by good players, I don't mean pros. I just mean people who aren't toxic and know how to counter play. And to that, I'm gonna go right into counter swapping. So countering, switching your abilities is just a natural aspect of battle. It's not some special thing that's unique to Overwatch. It's not some special skill. It's not some anything. And it's not as simple as just being, hey, they have a Winton, go Reaper. Because Reaper isn't even nearly as effective against Winton as he used to be. The reason why Winton was effective against Reaper, or sorry, the reason why Reaper was effective against Winton was because Winton could jump in, and after committing, Reaper could punish the commit by attacking him with his shotguns. Thanks to the armor changes, you now need somebody more like Venture or Junkrat, who while he's jumping can hit him, boop him back, and keep him away from your team. That is how these characters countered Winton. That is how Brawl counters Dive. It's because Dive wants to jump in on you and Brawl wants you to be close to beat you up. Poke is a comp that wants to stay far away from you, deal damage from a distance, and wait for you to get close to you with no resources. So that is why Dive beats Poke, because Dive just dives onto Poke, making it so that you have equal resources by the time you get to them, and you have the advantage. So when it comes to counter swapping, there is no such thing as just a single pick. You are not counter swapping a pick, you are counter swapping a play style. You are counter swapping an entire comp. If you want to know how to counter swap, you need to look at your team, you need to look at their team, and you need to think to yourself, what are the two characters that I can defeat by swapping to said character? And what is the one character that I'm going to have to avoid? Counter swapping is not just picking one character to swap. In the lower ranks, it kind of is because that one character generally does counter two or three characters. And unfortunately, 9 times out of 10, the characters who are getting killed by the swaps aren't even the tanks, it's the support. That goes back into why you shouldn't listen to support players, because if more support players just played Brig, they wouldn't be having issues with Tracer, Sombra, Reaper, a bunch of them. The Brig was designed specifically to counter those characters and that playstyle. The jump on the Ana playstyle, jump on the Zen playstyle, Brig protects them and destroys that playstyle. What made Overwatch great? Because that's what we're here to do. We're here to make Overwatch great again. The universe that is Overwatch was the only reason that anybody wanted PvP. We wanted the lore, we wanted the story, we wanted everything shoved in our faces from where it got left off in Overwatch. Because when it came down to the progression of the actual story, there wasn't much vertical progression, it was all lateral. We all just spread it out and built the world up for a grand event, which was clearly supposed to be the recurrence of Null Sector coming back and causing more issues after the Omnic crisis, and that's pretty much where we're at now. In fact, the last scene I believe was Sombra and Widowmaker at the Shambhala Monastery, and that's about as far into the lore we've gotten. And that's what people loved. Because it attributed to the hero fantasy, it attributed to the vibes, it attributed something to be like, hey, come here, play this character, and do this thing, and play this awesome game. And yeah, it definitely is a different vibe now. We need to go back to that. We need to get more of the content out there. We need to get more of the lore. We need to get more of the characters because that is what attracts people to Overwatch. And yeah, the gameplay is what keeps them there. Because honestly, the gameplay is solid. It just has like a major PR issue, and definitely a major PR issue. Because I'll take example. You can take Penguins, Penguin Zeros, and Asmongold. They are not Overwatch players, and they are easily they could be easily, how do I put this? Penguin Zero and Asmongold easily could be gateways into new players for Overwatch. So when we have big patches and people like that come back to Overwatch to try it, it is very important that they have a good experience because they have a wide-reaching audience. Because if Asmong or Penguins, Charlie, I'm just going to call Penguins Charlie from now on. If Charlie or Asmong says that this game sucks, chances are a lot of people aren't going to play it. Why? Because they have a large reach on the internet. And Overwatch is not a brand new, shiny game with a whole bunch of, hey, come play this brand new game marketing. It is an older game that kind of needs some reputable figures outside of the Overwatch scene to be willing to say, hey, this game is actually kind of good now. Kind of the same thing that was happening for League of Legends for a bit. League of Legends was known for having a super toxic community, and nobody wanted to play it because you were just going to get like hate speech and stuff like that. And then as soon as other people outside of the League of Legends community started to say that it was better, hell, even I tried League of Legends and I have a good time. I still played super casually, but my point is there. Alrighty. Now that we talked about what made Overwatch great and a couple of the people who we need to target, I want to talk about Overwatch 1. So, I of course don't talk to any developers or anything like that. I just play their game. And I listen to people complain about their game and talk praises about their game. And I gotta say, the conversations around Jeff Kaplan having all the Riz, being the Riz master, is hilarious. I do still remember the whole Dev Speaks with him sitting in front of the fireplace, giving Christmas stories. Daddy Jeff, come and give us Christmas stories. Come sit on the Overwatch god's laps and pray that Sombra gets buffs, cause hint hint, Sombra main here. But yeah, so that's the Overwatch 1 team. Team 4, World of Warcraft team. And I think that they made a good game. They had a good foundation, but I think that they super sucked at designing supports because most of the OP support problems were pretty much from them. They designed the game around the 6v6, and it was fun. It was fun. But unfortunately, the problem that Overwatch has is only exacerbated in 6v6, and that is that it is too damn confusing. Because you really need to know the comps, the metas, the things that people are playing so that you can counter the entire composition. I personally think the idea of having a flex role in role queue is actually the solution, the 5v5 with the flex role. Because if we start looking at that, then we probably could balance around, two tanks if you need two tanks. That's pretty much what open queue is. Most people run two tanks, one DPS, one support. And yeah, I think it's feasible because that's what Overwatch's foundation was made off of was 222. Well, kinda. we're not going to really talk about the figuring out stages. I think when it was even before I played, where it was complete open, and then only open queue, because only open queue did of course devolve into goats, which turned into the role queue requirements. And goats was really a thing because they made Brig. And Brig is literally the bane of Overwatch players because she's a pub stomper, she's a kill on sight character, and she's a skill check character for sure. Basically, if you understood the very basics of Overwatch when you picked up Brig as she came out, you were immediately into 2 or 3 ranks higher, just because of how strong she was. And it was fair. She had a shield that was equal to Winston's entire health pool. Plus she healed, plus she had passive healing, plus she had a stun, plus she had a knockback. Like she was a tank because Team 4 is really good at designing tanks actually. They did a good job at designing tanks. And the reason why I say that is if you look at Malga, I'm so sorry. I don't know if it's the new team or the old team who designed Malga, but that is a guy who's overcooked. Like, wow, it's almost like whoever designed Malga took all the principles from the support design, where the support should just have everything be everything, and applied it to Malga. Because I know some people say Malga's like Roadhog, but for the typical player, Malga is a bastion. More akin to a bastion, as long as people do not hold down both triggers at the same time and try to double fire his gun from long range. The fact that he has a damage over time, movement ability, anti-CCs, literally everything in a kit, except for the ability to fly, so he has no vertical mobility, is crazy. It works as a brawl and a poke tank, which, hybrid tanks are fine, but apparently brawl poke combo with the dash is a little bit too much. A little bit too much. Uh, yeah. Yeah, Overwatch 1 was fun. I personally miss 2CP, but once again, that's because I'm a Sombra main, and most of those maps were one off of EMP. Yeah, I think Overwatch 2 all in all is better with how they got it going. And if you weren't somebody who ever played Overwatch 1, you don't have anything to miss. So getting Overwatch 2 and 5v5 taken away from you isn't really fair because we just have survivorship bias. And, well, it's not really up to us if it's a 5v5 or a 6v6. After seeing the queue time stats where 6v6 was all DPS, well, man, maybe that's why people play tank in Overwatch, and that's why people stopped playing Overwatch, is because they wanted to shoot people. Having a gigabuff kaiju tank is really, you just need to understand what the tank is going to be. Because Reinhardt really is a damn hard wall to break down now. You really need to invest resources into getting Reinhardt eaten down so you can do things like alt. Because you will be doing something like running a Zarya or a Diva, and they won't want to swap. So you cannot be a DPS who runs a Sombra and a Tracer combo against it, because you are just not going to get through that shield and armor. You need to now understand that you need to play Junkrat, you need to play Pharah, you need to play Reaper, you need to play characters who can keep this constant line of pressure, because you need to be adaptable. And that's good. Uh, does it help with the confusion issue? Oh no, oh no, 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 no. But the only level of confusion that needs is there are some characters who do high single fire burst damage, and that is good against armor, and there are characters who are mobile and do low single fire burst damage, and that is good for eating squishies. The last thing I guess I wanted to talk about in my little rant here is just characters individually. First one I want to talk about is Sombra, because I have over 700-ish hours as Sombra, and I have played way too much Sombra. And I think Sombra is probably the most important character to Overwatch as a whole. Why is this? Because Sombra is a character who can soft counter everyone and everything. The more knowledge that you have of Overwatch and its characters, the better Sombra is. Because you start to learn things like when fighting a Moira, Wait until she fades before you jump on her. So you understand that interaction and when characters are weak and when, the game sense and play should be happening more and more and more. In fact, I think good Sombras really aren't decided based on like mechanical skill, but it's more game sense, especially when it comes to EMP. When it comes to EMP, I think that there are huge issues with EMP. A lot of people had issues in Overwatch 1 with Sombra's lockout time of hack and EMP being 6 seconds. I agree that that is too much. It was cruel and unusual punishment. The way that her hack mechanics work now, I think is great. The issue that I have with EMP is in some of the wording, and I would like to use Sigma as well as an example. So Sigma, when he does his Graviton Flux, it says that it does damage based on the maximum health of the characters caught into it. This means that it can kill people. Sombra's EMP says it does damage based on the remaining health, meaning it cannot. She is a DPS character, Sigma is a tank character. In Sigma's ult, he has a very good CC, he has a very good amount of damage, and I think that he deserves to have the wording of the max and remaining HP swapped with Sombra, and I think that that would bring Sombra more in line with the effective explosive assassin role, and Sigma much more in line with the tank role. I do agree that if that change was to be made, that they would probably have to nerf some of the numbers. Orisa. Orisa is the golden pony from day one. She is the perfect example of an unmovable force. She is, in my opinion, the far extreme of what a poke tank should be. Overwatch 1, she had a tank, she had a shield which made her a bunker. Now that she doesn't have a shield, I think she's just like poke. Uh, I think she's good, and I think she's good at it. It's simple. You shoot down, you sit back. You need a character like that for the low rank players. We look at Reinhardt, and I think Reinhardt is the perfect example of a tank in Overwatch, just in general. He is a brawl tank, and maybe that's just because I like brawl play style, but yeah, I personally think Reinhardt is probably the best designed tank in Overwatch, simply because he excels when he can help his team get into the space that they need to be in. Because when he can do that, he could just swing and swing and swing and swing and deal damage. And if you look at old school tanks, you move around them in the tight hallways, you use them as cover, and then once they're in the area where they can be effective, they are in the area that they can be effective. Kiriko. Kiriko to this day is probably my least favorite character, and only because she has the most unique ability in the game through her Suzu. And not the Suzu as a whole, but just the fact that it gives the team intangibility. The fact that you cannot be hooked, the fact that you cannot be stunned. Oh, I think now actually you could be stunned and grabbed. But the fact that a lot of that stuff is cleansed by it and you just like charge through it, all that kind of stuff, that is a confusing, unique micro ability that does not need to be in the game at all. Cleansing negative status effects definitely does need to be in the game. And I think that other characters should have their cleanses kind of made more noticeable, such as Zarya Bubble, the fact that when Rether Wraiths he cleanses, or yeah, Wraith form he cleanses, the fact that when Tracer recalls she cleanses, the fact that when Sombra translocates she cleanses. Cleanses are very much in the game. And Kiriko having a team cleanse is something that I think is very in line with supports and a very good design. My only issue, as I said, is the intangibility factor. Brig, I think they hit solid with Brig. Giving her stun back on her ult with the immediate reset of cooldown allows her to feel very impactful during her ults, and other than that, she's just Brig. Mauga, I hate Mauga with a passion, especially since they've removed so many shields and so many mitigation abilities. The fact that Mauga can just light you on fire and kill you from around the corner because you're lit on fire, and it's completely dependent on a lot of your team playing most of the time. I don't mean your personal team play. I mean if your team is paying attention, is a problem. Because unfortunately, because of how beefy tanks are now, a lot of people aren't paying attention to tanks, which means they just ignore them when they're shooting at you, and that's a problem when Mauga has you lit on fire. Yeah, yeah, Mauga, if you ask me. He needs a lot. I'm fine with just sending Malgo out to the farm. But if you ask me if we're not sending him out to the farm, he needs his ability tone. He needs his kit toned down, or like his movement toned down a lot. Yeah, Hanzo and Genji. Yeah, cool design when it comes to cinematics and background and story. Terrible characters. Genji's gone a lot better. I hate seeing Hanzo's in my lobby. Their alt sucks. All they really are good for is storm arrowing the tank, and if they don't realize that, then it's pretty much a throw pick. I've also personally had issues with Hanzo mains as a Sombra main because scatter. But yeah, hey, that's my rant. I love Overwatch. I love you guys. I'm gonna edit this, laugh at myself. Have a good day. The YouTube algorithm always makes sure that you do this and ask for like and subscribe.